Hallo liebe Naturfotofreunde, willkommen zu einer weiteren Folge des Naturfotocast. Eigentlich müsste ich an dieser Stelle eher sagen, welcome to another episode of the Nature Photography Podcast, denn ich spreche dieses Mal zum allerersten Mal Englisch in dieser Episode und das komplette Interview, das du gleich hören wirst, wird auf Englisch sein. Warum wird es auf Englisch sein? Weil ich mit einer internationalen Größe der Tierfotografie spreche, und zwar mit der australischen Fotografin Georgina Steytler. Ich habe mich sehr gefreut und bin auch ein bisschen stolz, dass sie eingewilligt hat, hier im Podcast ein bisschen aus dem Nähkästchen zu plaudern und einige wertvolle Erfahrungen, die sie über die letzten Jahre gemacht hat, weiterzugeben. Denn Georgina ist eine nicht nur sehr talentierte, sondern auch durchaus mit Preisen hochdekorierte Naturfotografin. 2018 hat eines ihrer Bilder beim Wildlife Photographer of the Year Award abgeräumt. Das ist sowas wie die Oscar-Verleihung weltweit der Naturfotografen. Also wer da eine Trophäe mit nach Hause nimmt, der muss es schon ziemlich drauf haben. Und das hat die Dame absolut. Wir haben uns über verschiedene Aspekte der Tierfotografie unterhalten. Unter anderem geht es darum, wie man sich einen Namen macht und welche Wege sie beschreiten würde, um als Fotograf etwas mehr Bekanntheit zu erlangen. Über die Für und Widers von Social Media haben wir gesprochen, weiterhin über einige fotografische Techniken. Sie hat zum Beispiel zu meinem Erstaunen erwähnt, dass sie mit einer 600 mm f4-Linse fotografiert, also ein riesenschweres Objektiv und damit aber alles frei Hand macht. Sie sagt, all ihre Bilder sind niemals mit einem Stativ gemacht. Auch das ist interessant, was sie dazu zu erzählen hat. Und auch über diese ganzen Awards, wie man da reinkommt, wie so die Trefferquote ist, haben wir gesprochen. Also ein buntes Potpourri an sehr interessanten Themen rund um die Naturfotografie. Und ich hoffe sehr, dass du der englischen Sprache insoweit mächtig bist, als dass du jetzt hier zuhören kannst bei unserem Interview. Mein Englisch ist recht gut, würde ich behaupten. Dennoch bin ich natürlich auch nicht im alltäglichen Flow drin, dass ich jeden Tag Englisch spreche. Von daher musste ich mich auch erstmal ein bisschen da reinfinden. Von daher hoffe ich, wenn du mir bei dieser Episode zuhörst im Interview, dass sich die Lacher vielleicht in Grenzen halten, wenn ich ab und zu mal die Grammatik ein bisschen durcheinander werfe oder auch mal mich ein bisschen verstotter. Ich habe das Gespräch recht roh gelassen und kaum irgendwas rausgeschnitten, außer wir haben es wirklich mal komplett überworfen und totale Scheiße abgesabbelt, damit es einfach authentisch ist. Es war sehr lustig und informativ und hat wirklich Spaß gemacht, mich auch mal mit einer internationalen Größe in diesem Gebiet zu unterhalten. Von daher hoffe ich, dass du auch einige wertvolle Insights für deine eigene Fotografie wieder mal aus diesem Interview ziehen kannst. Jetzt will ich aber gar nicht groß weiter labern in diesem Intro. Deswegen sage ich einfach mal, let the music play und viel Spaß mit dem Interview mit Georgina Steytler. All right, hello Georgina, and welcome to the Nature Photography Podcast. I'm really glad that you took the time to join me here. Before we get into all the kinds of different topics we want to discuss, so I'll pass the microphone to you through the wire, all to Australia, that you introduce yourself maybe to our listeners, some words and sentences. Who are you, where you're from, and what I'm especially interested in is how did you get started with bird photography?
Thank you, Johan. Thank you for having me. My name's Georgina Steytler. I'm all the way from Western Australia. So that's the lesser well-known side of Australia. We're a very long way from Sydney and everywhere else, in fact. And I'm actually now living in the very southern part of Western Australia in a town called Albany. It's currently very, very cold. As to bird photography, how I got into it is really it's a bit different in the sense that photography was always a hobby for me, and I was actually a lawyer. I went to uni. I actually have a Japanese degree as well.
Oh.
So a law and Japanese degree are both essential items for a bird photography, or not. And then I went to, I worked for a while as a lawyer, and then I met a friend from Peru. We went to Peru, went and did a tour in the Amazon. Our guide in the Amazon was a very, very knowledgeable about birds, fantastic guide. And we invited him back to Australia. We sponsored him to come back to Australia, and he lived with us for at least 6 months, and my parents for another 6 months.
Oh, great.
And Yeah, he was really good, and he learned English, Australian English. So if you go to Peru and you hear someone go, "That's amazing, mate," that's probably him. He's from the Amazon, and basically I'd take him out, and he'd want to look at birds, and he'd ask me what the birds were, and I had no idea. And I eventually enrolled him in a walk at BirdLife Australia, which is the main birding organisation in Australia, and I took him to this walk. And when we got there, I met some of the people who worked there, and they were interested. They needed someone to volunteer with the community education committee, and I got into birding through that. And then I was already interested in photography, and I started to become a serious bird photographer, basically taking photos so that we could use them to educate the community. We used to do talks at nursing homes and schools and all kinds of community groups.
Yeah, that's a good purpose for photography. So you were not one of these guys who were like studying bird books when they were children, and then one day became a bird photographer. So it was really the journey in Peru that triggered your interest for birds. That interest was not really there in the first place in your childhood and your youth. Is that right?
It was there. I had a love for nature. That's definitely
Okay.
the case. And then when I went to university, I guess you get railroaded into certain occupations that are not really you. I really wanted to do biology probably if I went back and did what I wanted to do, but I ended up doing law and things like that. And it's only, I suppose, as I got older, I went back to what I enjoyed when I was younger. And I suppose that's why it really triggered, or it became such a passion, is because it did fit in. I actually grew up on an orchard, which is an apple orchard in rural Australia. And we had lots of birds. We had lots of parrots and things. So although I have to say that a lot of people used to shoot them in those days, and they still do. In fact, it's a bit depressing.
Really?
But, yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, they shoot endangered cockatoos. It's a big issue. It's a big problem in the Orchardist area.
But that's illegal, and they do it anyway, or is it still legal?
It's illegal, yeah. Catching them, no, it's illegal. Catching them is really, really hard.
Terrible.
I've talked to the authorities about some things, and they're really trying hard. But it's very difficult because unless you can catch people in the act, it's very hard to prove.
Yeah, and you've practiced photography as a hobby, like a side project from your main job, which was still a lawyer. And at some point, you were like, okay, I'm gonna quit this lawyer job, and I'm gonna really into my passion and go all in and follow this. And I'm wondering, how do you make money from bird photography? I guess that's probably what many listeners are asking themselves. Is it possible? It's pretty hard. I guess we all can guess that. But can you tell me a little more about your journey from, okay, now I'm going to quit my job and try to make a living on photography, to where you are now? How did it all work out, and how did you make it happen?
So in the beginning, I suppose you start out learning the craft and perfecting it, and I read a lot of books and I watched a lot of things on the internet and things like that to try and learn. It's hard to make a sole living out of bird photography, and if people are finding it hard, I think that's par for the course. One of the biggest things you have to do is develop a name for yourself, because of course people have to choose who they're going to go, say for instance, a workshop with, or if they want to buy prints and things. You have to get your name out there, and that's one of the advantages of competitions, is to raise your profile. And I have a very good friend who's a very good landscape photographer, and I overheard her telling someone that's exactly what they had to do if they want to raise their profile and get known. You've got to enter competitions, and that's how people come to know you, and it certainly helped in my case. And then from there you can do workshops, and by far workshops are the most profitable way.
Okay.
Selling prints is extremely difficult. I think there's a big market for prints. I mean, it's a saturated market, and I find it very, very difficult. Prints are not the main way I would earn money. It's definitely through workshops. You've got a much greater profit margin. The other way is I have images in a stock library, but again, one is Agami Stock Library in Netherlands. And again, you have to have a lot of images though in a stock library to earn a decent amount of money. So there's a lot of work in getting good ID shots and getting good representative shots of different kinds of animals. And they're different kind of photography really to competitions and gallery photography. But definitely workshops, I think it would be the number one way. Is there any other method you would like me to talk about?
I was just thinking about you said getting a name for yourself. I think that's very important, and I'm on my way to also accomplish that. And I think at the time when you made a name for yourself in the scene of bird photography, it was, I guess, pre-social media. Like nowadays, you can set up your Instagram, you can set up your YouTube channel, your Facebook, and you can reach many people in very kind of easy ways. So I think back in the days, competitions were for you the number one method to get your name out there.
Yes, in fact, I'm glad you mentioned social media because it was something I meant to mention. And obviously that's another way. I have had people request prints from social media. But by far the biggest income earner that I've had from social media is mobile phone company contacted me and paid me some money to use their mobile phone to take bird photos. Now they found me through Instagram. So if I wasn't on Instagram and didn't have that profile, then an opportunity like that would not have come up. So Instagram is becoming increasingly, I'm finding, extremely relevant. But what I want to caution people, because what I'm finding as well is that there are a lot of people on Instagram. So if you're going to be on social media, you have to be different from other people. I think if you post the similar kind of images that other people are posting, there's a lot of people now with a lot of bird photographers with over 50,000 followers. So, and there's a lot of bird on branch style images, and you'll get a lot of social media following, but you're not necessarily going to get those big contracts unless you stand out from the crowd, because there's already a lot of people out there. So I really want to urge people to maintain their difference, find where their passion is, what kind of bird photos they like, and make themselves stand out from the other people, whether it's through quality or quirkiness or being very artistic. I think increasingly what's going to become important is having a point of difference, because there are so many people now on social media with a lot of following. If you want a company to single you out, why are they going to choose you and not someone else who has, say, 100,000 followers?
Yeah, I totally agree. You have to be unique in some way, and you got to work out your USP, so to say. And do you think competitions are still relevant nowadays when social media is that big to get attention, or are competitions just like nice to have, but not the main way to get your name out there in 2019?
It's true. It's not the main way. I suppose social media is the main way, but I still think that a lot of the work that I get comes not from necessarily social media, and the profile is still important. And I think competitions give you people an objective criteria to assess you from, whereas social media is to some extent very, well, I guess it's not subjective in the sense, but an image can do very well on social media and not necessarily be a good quality image. Whereas to do well in a competition usually means that you have a certain standard, and that's what sets you apart. So I think you still do need, especially amongst the professionals and things, you just still do need to establish your credentials, because there's a lot of people with a lot of followers on Instagram, bird photographers, who are not necessarily getting the same opportunities as me. And I think, well, what's the difference between me and them? And maybe it's because I do have a better profile. So when I say profile, I mean I've had some competition wins that have given me a more well-known, if you like. I'm not sure.
Yeah, just recently the Nature Photographer of the Year win. Congratulations on this one. Yeah, that was huge. Did you expect it to happen someday? I mean, this is like the Oscars of the nature photography world, I guess. And you did win one of the trophies there. Were you very surprised that it happened, or did you think, oh well, my images are pretty good. I got a good chance of winning?
Definitely the first one. I was definitely surprised. I I'm not one of these people who sits there and thinks, oh, I'm really good. In fact, if anything, I lack self-esteem, and I was definitely surprised. I screamed. I think I screamed for like 6 months. um, it's a massive thing. I mean, in my wildest dreams, in your wildest dreams, you hope to get in the final 5 or the top 5 or something, or even just top 100. You don't actually. I don't know. Very few people, I think, would actually think they're going to win anything. And really, if you enter competitions, you hope you're going to do well, but I mean, you can't enter competitions thinking you're going to win, because at the end of the day, a lot of it is still notoriously subjective. And when you're at that level, you know that there are so many brilliant images. I was talking to one of the other photographers, David Maitland, who has been in the finals several times, and he said, in reality, once you get to the top 100, he said, everybody's image is fantastic, so it must be really hard for the judges then, and it's almost like a lotto almost. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I guess you get the right set of judges that like your image over someone else's, but all of the images that are contending are already really good at that stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's I think maybe sometimes it's a little bit like coincidence. If you win it, like one judge is more like into your image, and the next judge, like you said, is more like into some other image. I was just wondering, like many competitions, you cannot submit your photos for free. I guess they have an entry fee. Can you recall, like roughly, how much money you spent just in entry fees for competitions thus far?
It varies. There's some I could spend on some. The Australian Geographic Nature Photographer of the Year, for instance, costs quite a lot of money. It's the most expensive one that I know of, and that costs $20 per image to put in.
Okay.
So I would easily spend a couple of $100 entering that competition each year. Whereas I don't think that the wildlife photography is actually that expensive. I think it's only £30 or something, which is, I guess it would be a lot for some people, but in the context of the Australian Geographic Nature Photography, it's not very much. And you can enter 20 images or something for that amount of money. So I guess each year probably spend $300 or $400 entering competitions.
I was about to enter some competitions as well, but I'm a little held back because I gotta pay for it. On the other hand, if you don't pay for the entry, you cannot win because you're not in. So I think that's money well spent, even if you don't win every competition. But it's like you said, it's a good way to try to make a name for yourself out there. And when I'm on your website, in your About section, when I just read it, it says, Georgina is widely published in books and magazines, producing articles, running workshops, and giving talks. I was wondering, who takes the initiative in these endeavors? Are you going to book publishers saying, hey, I'm Georgina, I got some awesome images here, do we want to work together? And they say, yes, let's do it. Or is it just the other way around, that you're a little famous now through your competition wins and other stuff, and your name is out there, and the agencies and the publishers, they come to you and say, hey, we want you to work with us, let's make a deal. So which one is it?
Oh, it's definitely the latter, because I'm not organised enough for me.
Okay, fair enough.
So I get all the talks and opportunities that have come my way have definitely been approaching me, and I think a lot of that is actually social media, possibly, and some of it, and a few things have been the wildlife photographer of the year. It certainly helps your profile enormously. But before we leave competitions, I just wanted to say to people, if they can't afford to, I really believe it's important to, in the beginning, especially when you're improving, it's really important to enter competitions, because you don't even have to actually put the image in, but it's the more important is the process of pretending
absolutely.
almost that you're going to enter, because what it forces you to do is to be objective about all the images you've taken in the last 12 months and say, okay, which are my best, and then process them according to the competition rules, and that in itself is an incredibly important exercise to do, and it helps you improve, and it helps to focus your mind on and why that's better and why that's not. And even what I suggest to people, and I've done this in the past, is I send them out potential images to, say, 15 different people, friends, family, professional colleagues, and say, I don't want you to rate every image, but I want you to pick the top 3 or the worst 3, or the top 5 or the worst 5. And then what you tend to do is then you get this feel for what image really is a good image, because everybody consistently picks that image, and then what images really aren't really that good, because there's no doubt we all do it. We get attached to images, and we love them often because of the circumstance when we took it and for some reason, but it doesn't translate objectively. So if you want to save yourself a lot of money and things, and that's one way to kind of see if you really do have an image worth putting in. And then, but on the other hand, don't stop, even if you can't afford it. Act like you're going to enter, and just going through that process is going to be very good for your photography.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant advice. I was just thinking that I'm processing and watching my photos on the screen, on the PC or on my phone, like to 100%. And just lately I started to get a little photo book printed of my best images of the last years. And when I look at the images in print, I saw things that I've never seen on screen, because it's a totally different medium. I was opening a landscape photo and was like, geez, there are people in the image. Why are there people in the image? I have never seen these tiny little people on the screen. So I think that's it's another suggestion that relates to what you just said, that people should print their images once in a while, even if it's just a cheap photo from the local drugstore, just to get a different view on that. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And the other thing is, photos look better printed than you think. And things like digital noise don't show up as much on a photo. It's much more forgiving. And I've had images where I was really worried. I took it at a high ISO, and it was a little bit underexposed. I had to lighten it, which introduced a lot of digital noise, and I had to do a bit of noise reduction. And then someone really wanted it quite big. It was my albatross picture, and I had it blown up bigger than upsized. Not sure what you would call that, interpolation. When they make the image larger than it would be at 100%, they actually go further, and it actually looks really, really good. And that's because the printing medium is much more forgiving. So people get on forums, and there's people who are super critical, and you've got a bit of noise here, or this is not quite sharp. But I tell you what, it doesn't matter. What is the most important thing in that image? And people, I guess if I can give the biggest advice, is you've got to develop an eye. Stop focusing on technical things, because you can have the most technically perfect image, but if it's not aesthetically beautiful, then it's never going to be better than a documentary style image. If you want to create really images that tell a story, have emotion and things, then you really need to develop an eye. And the only way you can do that is through looking at other images, just researching, and then just keep taking millions of photos.
Yeah, there's no way around that.
Hope. Yeah. And you just got to hope something sinks in. And when I look at my images that I did few years ago, I'm horrified.
Yeah, me too. But on the other way, it helps to review images that are a couple of years old, because sometimes you find, okay, that was horrible what I did back then there, but on the other side, there is the possibility that you find images from back then that are really great, and you just, with the knowledge you have now, you can edit them in a different style, or you haven't just seen them as good as they are in the past.
That's absolutely true. And that's why people say, oh, I'm a bit of a photo hoarder. I've got thousands and thousands. I've got my file management is terrible. But that's the problem I have with deleting, is because sometimes I go back and I see the potential in images that I didn't see at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so as you evolve, how you see a good photo evolves too. So it's one of those situations where sometimes you do need to sit on an image before its real potential comes to you. You have to be ready to acknowledge it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about camera gear for a second, because people are all curious in kind of what camera do you use, what lens do you use. You're a Canon shooter, right?
Yes.
On purpose, because you think Canon is the very best system, or did you just buy your first camera as a Canon because you had no idea that there were other manufacturers at the time? That's how it all started for me. I was going to the electronics market. Oh, there's a camera, just grab it. And now I'm stuck with the system. I'm still like confident with it, but there are many people that saying like Nikon or Sony are doing the better cameras nowadays. Do you have a take on that? What's the best?
Oh, yeah. Ooh, the dark side when you go to Nikon. No, no, I know, I've heard that the autofocus system and everything on Nikon is very good, but I'm like you. No, I just started with a Canon, and to be honest, for me now to change would be too expensive to change over.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think it's worth it. But having said that, the new Nikon, I think, has this massive. Normally, megapixels don't necessarily mean better, but in the case of the Nikon, it sounds like it's got these huge advantages. So I'm just going to bide my time and wait for Canon to catch up, if it's catching up. I mean, if Nikon is indeed better. At the end of the day, I suppose I still think the number one thing is the quality of the lens, and also technique, because I went out with someone who had a Sony, the latest Sony mirrorless, and is supposed to have really good noise control up to 3200 ISO, and this person took an image at 3200 ISO, and when I saw they processed it and it looked very odd to me, so I asked for the original, and it had a lot of digital noise in it, like it was basically unusable. And what had happened is they were using auto ISO mode, and I always strongly say to people, don't use any mode, automatic mode if you can avoid it, because I think it does make you a bit lazy and you're not checking the settings all the time. Okay. And what's happened is they've used auto ISO, and it's actually slightly underexposed the image. And the digital noise, even on this wonderful new Sony mirrorless, was absolutely horrendous and completely unusable. So even with the best camera in the world, if you do the wrong thing, you're still going to get rubbish images. So you need to know technique is the number one important thing, and good lenses.
What kind of lens you using actually?
Well, I'm using a prime lens, and the prime lenses are fantastic, but more recent, I've got a 600mm f4, but it's horrendously expensive.
And it's really heavy.
Really heavy, but I handhold. I've never used a tripod.
Really?
Not well. I haven't used a tripod for over 6 years.
Okay.
I haven't used a tripod for any of my bird photography.
Wow.
I know, and so people who are told that you can't do it hand holding it's rubbish. I know a lot of people that do hand hold, but you have to compensate by, and the way I do it is I use continuous shutter mode. Yep. So then, I've even taken sharp shots at 1/60th of a second hand holding. And
with a 600mm lens, like 1/60th hand holding. Wow, Jesus.
It can be done. It can be done. So the trick though is, when you use continuous shutter mode, you just need one image. So I might take 10 shots of a bird on a perch. It can't be moving, obviously, at 1/60th of a second. The bird can't be moving. But 9 of them might be out of focus, but 1 will be sharp in those 10 images. So I always say to people, I call it spray and pray.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, because if you just take one and it's blurry, your chances of you're reducing your chance. You take 10 images of the same bird in the same position, your chances of getting a sharp shot go up dramatically. I also am not afraid to use high ISO. A lot of people are still, I've had one lady at a workshop who never went over 400 ISO. And I just said, you're never going to get sharp shots like that, no matter what lens you use, because unless it's a very sunny day, because a lot of low light photography, you're going to have to use high ISO if you want to get a sharp photo. And the other thing people do is they just don't use a fast enough shutter speed. But yeah, so if you do all of those things, you can even handhold with a big lens and still get sharp images.
You can't handhold it like all the time for hours, so you just lift it up, burst like 10, 20 images, and then put it down again, and spray and pray that one of them is sharp.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it depends what the bird's doing. If it's sitting on a tree, then I'll just stand there and I only lift it every now and then and take a photo, unless I'm waiting for it to move and I think it's going to move, in which case I try and keep it up for longer. But I support the lens with my elbow on the side of my body.
Yeah.
So I kind of use that, and I hold it from the shoe. What's it called? That little thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And a lot of people say, for more stability, you're supposed to hold the lens shaft, but my arms aren't long enough with that big lens. It's much more comfortable for me to hold it there. I also, if I'm sitting bear in mind that a lot of the time I'm lying down to take photos, or if I'm sitting, I'll rest it on my knee. So the only time I'm really hand holding is if there's a bird in a tree and I really want to get the shot, or the birds are flying, because you need to hand hold for birds in flight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. But rest of the time I'm normally lying on the ground.
And then you got a beanbag or a pillow or something, or you just lay it down on the ground to stabilize.
Just lie on the ground. Put my hand under the lens just to have a bit of flexibility and maneuverability. You've got to have my hand under there. It would be sometimes, if I remember, I'll have a beanbag or something, because it's obviously more comfortable to have something under it. But no. And I know you're going to ask about camouflage. I don't wear camouflage, but I should hasten to add that in my state, in Australia, we don't have any duck shooting. There's a duck shooting season in other states, and that makes the birds much less afraid of humans. Yeah. And I'll just tell you, the only time I use camouflage, I thought, okay, I'll photograph some kangaroos, and I had one of those ghillie or yowie suits on. And I don't know if you know much about kangaroos, but anyway, they just took one look, and because I moved, and they saw this tree thing move, and they just took off, and they were coming back. So with some animals in Australia, if they're actually used to seeing humans, and because there's not a huge hunting culture, they don't necessarily run off. I know I have been to Europe, and even a pigeon will see you 50 meters away and take off. So it does make a big difference.
You got all kinds of stuff with you when you're out in the field, not just the camera and the lens. And I'm always curious when I ask people, what's your favorite non-photographic item in the field?
That's a really difficult one, because a lot of the time, a lot of my shots aren't planned. So I don't go out with a lot of equipment. But I'm lying down a lot. I guess I take a yoga mat to lie on if I'm going to be in a muddy area. Is that the kind of non-photographic thing you're talking about?
It can be a yoga mat, it can be some sort of special pants or a special hat that you don't get sunburned, or a remote shutter, or a drinking bottle that is in some case very special, or whatever have you.
Yeah, I know. I like a coffee. So I've often got a coffee flask with me. Something to lie on is usually the thing. A yoga mat. Oh, but actually sometimes they're a bit troublesome. So I actually wear a lot of the time, especially in muddy areas, a raincoat.
Do you shoot in the water also, like with wading pants and walking in the pond, or just from the shore?
No, I have wading pants, but I've never used them. I shoot from the shore. My favourite technique, and I have a lot of success with it, is to go to an area where there are birds and go near them, but not too close, and then just lie down. And you'll find that a human lying down is much less threatening to a bird than one standing. They seem to know that you're not as you can't move as quickly, and you're not as threatening. And you'll find, at least in Australia, that you get birds come I've had some migratory waders like bar-tailed godwits and things come so close I can't focus on them. So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll see which way they're feeding along the shore, and then I'll go and lie down about 50 metres ahead of them and I'll wait. And then they keep feeding along, and then as long as you don't move, they can see me. I'm not in camouflage or anything. I'm always clicking the shutter so that by the time they get to me, they get used to that noise, because the Canon camera can be quite noisy.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're so used to it. It doesn't. What I worry about with camouflage is if you wait and then you suddenly have the bird there and then you take a photo, it makes that noise, and then they're really freaked out and they take off straight away. Whereas if they see you, they come towards you, they hear the noise. By the time they get to you, they're already used to it and they've realised that there's no threat there. And I always wait until they've gone on before getting up, because I don't like to flush them.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's cover post-processing. Yeah, outtake. Maybe I'll leave it in.
Edit.
Do you use Lightroom, Photoshop, only Lightroom, only PS, or both, or maybe other software, or none of it at all? What's your basic workflow there?
I know what the ideal workflow is, but sometimes I get really lazy. If I'm really lazy and I'm trying to do a quick edit for, say, Instagram, I'll just use Lightroom, because it's all there and I can do things. If I'm going to do, for instance, a competition image or a gallery image, I will spend more time and I'll do what I call the optimal workflow, which is I would open it up in the Canon software, DPP4, Digital Professional Photography or something. And then what I do is if you think about it, Canon has designed their cameras and it's designed this, and it knows how its cameras and its lenses work. So I use the lens calibration tools, and what do they call it? Digital lens optimization tools.
Profile corrections.
Profile corrections, that's it. So I use that. I'll import a raw file in the DPP4. I'll do the profile corrections. I will also set the sharpness to roughly 3. I don't use unsharp mask, I use the sharpness, because Canon images, they use a demosaicing filter from what I understand, and out of the camera the image is slightly softer, so you've got to compensate for that. Their recommended amount is 3 or 4. So I usually leave the setting, it'll come up automatically. And the other thing they do is sometimes it does a very good job of noise reduction. It assesses the image and it recommends a noise reduction level. Sometimes if it's too much, I will bring it back and then I'll fix it up in another software myself. I'll do selective noise reduction. But that's basically pretty much all I do, and I do some shadows and highlights. I increase shadows, decrease highlights and things like that. Then what I'll do is create an optimized TIFF file, and then I'll either open that in Lightroom or in Photoshop, but more often Photoshop. And then I just use the normal tools in Photoshop. But I do sometimes use Nik software in Photoshop. I edit every image differently. But I tend to have a certain routine. You can create actions. I've seen Glenn Bartley has some really great videos, post-processing videos on how to create actions, and he goes through and he brings up different things. But what I find, especially if I really only do that with Photoshop with competition or gallery images where I really want to make the best out of them. And then it's an individual image, so I would definitely be doing everything like just for that image, and it's not the kind of changes I would, be universal to every photo. So it would just depend on the image and what effect I was going for.
Yeah, all right. If somebody's an absolute beginner in nature photography and is like, yay, I'm going to start out now, I'm going to shoot some birds, do you have some sort of #1 advice for him or her that he should consider?
Oh, get low, get to eye level with the bird, get close. And number one thing, if you're starting out, you can do no better, even if you're not starting out anyone, than photograph the birds close to your home that are already used to people. Because often when you're starting out, you don't have a big lens or anything. So shoot the birds, get to know how to take photos by practicing on the common birds. A lot of people get carried away with going to exotic places and whereas you can get beautiful photos. If you can get a beautiful photo of a common bird, then you know you're on the right track, and that's what I would advise people to do. Don't go tripping off anywhere. Just perfect your craft at home.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And take millions and millions of photos.
Yeah.
And keep reading. I say keep reading everything you can find out, and eventually something sinks in. Look, it took me years because some things I'd read and I never did. And it's only later and you go, oh, I know I read that a couple of years ago and I never did it, but now I understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Reading is crucial, but applying is even more crucial. So read, apply, and then it's going to work out. You were talking about exotic locations. What kind of exotic locations have you been to? What was the most spectacular photographic location that you've been to thus far?
Oh, my photos probably don't do it justice, but Lord Howe Island, it's off the coast of New South Wales. It's probably the easternmost point of Australia. It's an island about 1,200 kilometres off the coast. Absolutely spectacular. You've got to Google it. Google Ball's Pyramid. That's BALL '(S) pyramid. It's this amazing volcanic plug that comes up out of the ocean, and there's albatross and shearwaters and ternlets and all these incredible birds just flying around. It is just one of the most spectacular places. It's also home, Lord Howe Island, to nesting white terns. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're the most absolutely angelic birds. They've got these big black eyes and they're pure white, and oh my God, they are like little angels. Oh, and then there's Providence petrels. All kinds of incredible birds nest on Lord Howe Island. It's just a nature's paradise. But I'm very excited that my other number one destination I would be wanting to go to is Christmas Island, which is actually off the west coast of Western Australia, next to Indonesia.
Oh, that was covered. That was covered on the BBC series Planet Earth Part 2, I guess. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, with the crab migrant. Well, they have the red crab migrant. I'm going there in November. I was like, oh my God. Honestly, I'm going to scream if you would hear me screaming.
Yeah.
And then they've got these golden tropic birds. It's like the white-tailed tropic birds, but they've got this golden morph. They call it the golden bosun, and it's spectacular. And then they've got 3 species of frigate birds, and they've got boobies. They've got 3 species of boobies. I'm just like, oh my God, this is like my heaven.
Yeah, I can relate. I'm a little jealous now, so you can you can stop talking about it, or I will scream too.
There's room in my luggage though. There'll be no room in my luggage. I'm going to have every piece of camera.
Yeah, absolutely. You have one bucket list shot you're still gunning for, like the one image that's been in your head for years, and you wanna put it on your screen.
Oh, I tell you, it's not the one image I've had for years, but I don't know if you've seen The Blue Planet, David Attenborough's second one.
Not yet. No, not yet.
Oh, well, this is an amazing scene, and next year I hope to go there. It's Michaelmas Cay is this tiny little sandbar, basically in the Great Barrier Reef on eastern coast of Australia, and they have this amazing footage of giant trevally, the fish, leaping out of the water and catching terns.
Whoa, okay, that sounds interesting.
Out of the air, they leap out of the water, they catch a flying tern, like just above the water. It is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And I thought, I want to get that photo. I don't want it to catch the actual bird. I want the tern to get away.
You wanna?
But my dream.
You wanna catch the bird being caught.
I don't want the bird being caught. I want the fish with its mouth open, but the bird actually escapes.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to have, because I hate seeing things die. But it's just, I love action and behavior like that is just, it's mind blowing. And that's always my dream, is to get the ultimate action shot. And for me, that would be it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. And I think we're gonna come to an end now. We had a great conversation. It was very fun and informative. I myself did learn some new things, and I think many of our listeners did as well. And yeah, thanks for joining me here. And I will leave the last couple of words to you if you like. So if you want to mention something in the very end of our interview, so please go ahead and feel free to do so.
Oh no! Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope everyone has got something out of it. If anyone ever wants any questions, I'm very, very friendly. So you just need to email me or put a little message on Instagram or something, and I'll do my best to help out.
Here, that's just perfect. So all the people out there, you heard her. Take her word for it. And if you got any questions, feel free to text Georgina in any social media channels that there are. I will link all your online presences like Instagram and your website and whatever there is in the show notes of this episode so that people can find you online. And yeah, on that note, thanks again and have a great day. And yeah, maybe I'll see you around when I finally make it to Australia in many, many years from now.
Oh, come on down. Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Das war's mit dieser Folge des Naturfotocast. Schön, dass du bis hierhin zugehört hast. Vielen Dank dafür und ich hoffe, du konntest einige Erkenntnisse und Informationen aus dieser Folge rausziehen, die du auf deine eigene Fotografie anwenden kannst. Wenn dir dieser Podcast gefällt, möchte ich dich zum Schluss noch um einen ganz kleinen Gefallen bitten. Und zwar, dass du bei iTunes oder anderen Podcast-Portalen, wo das möglich ist, den Podcast mit der höchstmöglichen Punktzahl bewertest und idealerweise vielleicht noch eine kleine Rezension dazu schreibst. Das hilft mir, dass der Podcast größere Bekanntheit erlangt, in den Charts höher rankt und dadurch noch weitere Fotografen, wie du einer bist, die Möglichkeit erhalten, diese ganzen Episoden hier zu hören und Inspiration für ihre eigene Fotografie zu tanken. Wenn du Interesse an weiteren Inhalten von mir hast, dann schau gerne mal auf meiner Homepage kellerfoto.de vorbei. Dort biete ich dir unter anderem meinen kostenlosen E-Mail-Newsletter, in dem ich in unregelmäßigen Abständen immer mal wieder Tipps, Tricks, Erfahrungen und Inspirationsquellen rund um das Thema Naturfotografie verschicke. Also kein Spam, sondern wertvolle Inhalte für dich, die es nur auf diesem Kanal gibt. Direkt als Eingangsgeschenk, wenn du dich registrierst, bekommst du mein 40 Seiten langes kostenloses E-Book Fliegende Vögel fotografieren. Wenn du also in diesem Bereich dich verbessern willst, kann ich dir nur empfehlen, da mal reinzuschauen. Selbst wenn du dieses Buch nicht brauchen solltest, einfach diese erste E-Mail löschen und warten, was da noch kommt. Wenn du deine Bilder mit der Software Adobe Lightroom Classic CC bearbeitest, biete ich dir auch einen kompletten Videokurs an, in dem ich dir zeige, wie du deinen Workflow signifikant verschlanken kannst, ganz viele Abkürzungen, die Lightroom selbst bietet, einfach umsetzen kannst und somit deine Bildschirmzeit um 80% schrumpfen kannst. Dann hast du viel mehr Zeit für das eigentliche Fotografieren oder sonstige kreative Arbeit und musst dich nicht mehr in Lightroom zu Tode verwalten und tausende Regler schieben. Das geht nämlich wesentlich einfacher. kellerfoto.de, schau da einfach gerne mal rein und das war's an dieser Stelle mit mir nun wirklich. Bis zur nächsten Folge, wir hören uns. Bis dahin, dein Jochen.